We've all seen how Netflix has been going around with an axe lately, canceling shows left and right, and 2022's Resident Evil was one of them. While audiences were pretty mad about other cancellations, we don't think this is one of those times. How it managed to stay in the top 10 with those horrible ratings for even 2 weeks remains a mystery to us. In this video, we'll tell you all that went down. First up, this series had some of the worst audience scores in history. We're gonna be real with you here, we've never seen scores that are this bad. We all know that adapting video games for TV and film is never easy. There's an angry fan base that'll kill you for any small mistake you make. And let's just say that this series made a lot of those. This show hit our Netflix screens on July 14th and went downhill almost instantly. It was deemed as Netflix's worst production of the year. Now, we know that critics not liking something is one thing. We've seen it happen many times with titles that audiences actually end up enjoying. Not for this show though. While critics may have been generous to give the show a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes, audiences spared no one. These gaming fans set records for the worst audience ratings in a long time, 22% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Yeah, it's that bad. Let's compare these with other horrible shows we've seen recently, okay? Space Force was just pure torture, and it scored 64% from critics, but still 77% from audiences. And have you heard of Haters Back Off? That one show we all know about because of how bad it is. This series that's a recurring name on worst Netflix series lists still managed to get a 76% audience score. So, getting ratings that were that bad meant that Resident Evil had to be like really bad. And super disappointing, right? And yes, you're completely right. It was 100% that bad. Next, the audience is always right. This show's awful. You would think the show's creators might have learned a thing or two from the previous failed attempts at Resident Evil adaptations, right? Well, think again. If you're adapting anything from a beloved franchise, be it a game, a cartoon, or a comic book, you better be really careful. Assess every detail and leave no stone unturned. These fans can be hell, but this series just managed to do everything the opposite. The show is just not good. Plain truth right there. Fans were all set to be disappointed because this story pays almost zero attention to the games. It doesn't live up to these expectations at all. Sometimes we think it can pass off as a completely original one too. Wow, kudos to the writers for being so creative, right? We don't think so. First, thinking out of the box barely ends well for adaptations. And if you want to make it work, you have to do a spectacular job. Want people to enjoy your story more than the original one? Well, you'd better be willing to make the story better too, and Resident Evil failed in that department. If you ask us, it seemed like the showrunners were desperately trying to reinvent the show for a younger audience, making it more Gen Z or whatever. Instead, all they really made it was cringe. Cringe and some more cringe. Whether it was through the unnecessary teen drama arc or the painfully forced pop culture references in the show, you can't just throw around words like Dua Lipa and and expect us to be all, oh, she said that's so relatable, I love the show. Yeah, that's not how it works. And we've got hundreds of Twitter memes to prove our point. Now, let's take a look at what makes the show so bad. Right off the bat, the characters are just not it. We'll start with our main guy, Wesker. This dude is undeniably one of the most iconic villains in gaming history. Fans would expect his character to have a spine in the show, you know, but here he's just a mild-mannered suburban dad with unhealthy family dynamics. The main story is a family drama, which is just not what we wanted. We signed up for a zombie face-off, not father-daughter control issues. And the first half of the season is just terribly slow-paced. It has all the ingredients for your typical teen drama, which is, again, not what fans expected to watch. If we wanted a sci-fi teen drama, we would just put on the Vampire Diaries again. What's more, there are absolutely no elements of horror here, which is very unlike the thrilling games. Those moments of suspense, jump scare, and gore are all missing in the series. Perhaps the worst part is the ending. Season 1 ends on like 5 different cliffhangers. There's no proper closure, and seeing the fate of this show now, we don't think we're getting any in the future too. And now for the big one. Netflix announces series cancellation this week. We think everyone saw this coming by far. A few days ago, Netflix finally announced what we all knew was going to happen. Resident Evil was canceled after just 1 season, and that was the end of that. Of course, this was pretty sad news for the showrunner, who had plans for not just 1 more, but like 11 more seasons with so many new characters. Yeah, don't know what you were thinking, man. It was never gonna happen. You may be thinking, Netflix does keep renewing equally bad shows as well. Right, but this series wasn't just bad. It was also really expensive. We're sure you saw all those viral 3D ads in Times Square, right? That looked very pricey. Plus, Plus, it's a zombie show featuring a futuristic timeline too. Imagine how much set building would cost, let alone other effects. So, more money times bad ratings never equals a good outcome if you ask Netflix executives. This show had nothing but bad reviews, low viewership hours, and a very high budget. It was doomed. It wasn't just bad for the Resident Evil fans. No one would have liked it, even if you've never heard of the franchise before. The only redeeming quality of this series was perhaps the acting skills of Lance Reddick, who tried his best at Wesker. The script, the concept, everything else was just horrible. And Andrew Dabb, thinking he'll get time to work on it more over the course of the series, was just overly optimistic. If you really wanted that, you probably should have done a good job the first time, no? Moving on, Lance Reddick shares his thoughts on the news. While this news may not have affected anyone that much, we're sure it's pretty sad for the team. Everyone who worked on the show is likely to be disappointed, and understandably so. Lance Reddick took to social media with a video after the cancellation news got out. He said he wanted to do this for some acknowledgements and thank yous. The actor gave a special shout out to all the fans who watched the show and loved it. Now, you could think, what fans? Who would like this, right? Well, as the saying goes, there's somebody for everybody. And some people enjoyed Resident Evil too. Under Lance's post, Twitter users expressed how sad they were to hear the news. One user wrote that his family watched it every night and actually liked that the story was different. Most of the other users, though, admired Lance's acting but knew that it had to happen. All the actors did their job really well, especially our Wesker, but the story was disappointing through and through. It was never going to be successful. Anyway, back to the video. Reddick also thanked the entire team behind the show, including his co-stars Ella Balinska, Siena Agudong, Paola Nunes, and others. He also acknowledged the Netflix executives who believed in their vision. He talked of all the hard work they put into the series and revealed how the entire team had a splendid time working on the show, which will always be close to his heart. The actor said, "Thank you, onward and upward." Finally, this news has raised an important debate. Do video game adaptations ever work? The process of adapting video games is not easy, and it's one that has many unexpected outcomes. It's a risky prospect, that's for sure. That said, it's not a guaranteed disaster. We've seen many successful projects like the Sonic movies and Arcane. A lot of them, like Resident Evil, fail miserably too, but that doesn't mean you should stop expecting anything. It's a spectrum. Some do really well, and some don't. Paramount's Halo wasn't bad, and if you ask us, we have some really high hopes for HBO's The Last of Us. So, have some faith. Who knows? We might even get a good Resident Evil adaptation too. Fingers crossed. Until then, if you really want to see a zombie action movie on Netflix, just go watch Black Summer and Kingdom. That's some good stuff. Resident Evil is a big miss, and it's not what you want it to be. Plus, it's already canceled, so just save your time. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of the show's cancellation? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.